back to the channel, guys, or for those of you that are new here, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be showing you 5 awesome editing effect tricks within this new music video for Post Malone Circles, which dropped earlier today. Started working on this as soon as I saw this drop. So let's go ahead and check it out. We're not going to do a full breakdown. We're going to actually try and keep this video short and sweet and just give you the information you guys want to hear. So we'll talk about 5 effects today. The first is going to be this here, where we have this kind of whitewashed eyes to normal look. Second, we're going to talk about kind of blanking out somebody's mouth like this, and then we're also going to talk about creating some reflections within a mirror, using some caustics within After Effects, using some turbulent displace. We'll talk all about that. Here's a better example of the washed out or wiped away mouth effect that I've been speaking of. Next, we're going to talk about how to do a quick and easy little sky replace, sky time lapse that you see going on there. It happens very quickly in the video, but I think it's a cool effect that we can talk about. Now, if you're interested in more of this in-depth visual effects stuff, this 3D stuff that might be going on, like these simulations, I know this part is super cool as well, where he gets sucked into the ground and you see all this cool water going over him. I made a full video talking about the new Travis Scott Wake Up music video, and that video can give you a good starting point as to learning some 3D things like water simulations, fire simulations, or even using Adobe After Effects particular. So if you're interested in that, check that video out. It'll be linked down below as well as at the end of this video. And then we will also speak on these cool glowing violet eyes going on here. So we have some easy stuff within After Effects. We have some more complicated stuff. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So we're going to pop over into Adobe Premiere and just set up our clips. So I dragged some footage into my timeline here in Adobe Premiere. I actually already set up a dynamic link. So if you want to do that, you can right click on it and go to replace with After Effects composition, and that'll open it up in After Effects. So anything we do within After Effects will also show up within Adobe Premiere. If you only have After Effects, you can just start within After Effects. So either way, what you want to do is scroll on your timeline, find a place where you have a nice clear shot of the subject's mouth, and we're going to go ahead and actually screenshot that. So you can click export frame button here. I'll name this example 1 and just make sure you know where you're actually saving that. So you can click browse and choose the path where you want to save it. Now, if you're working only within After Effects, what you can do is go to After Effects, scroll to where you want to get your screenshot, and then you can go up to composition, save frame as, file. We're actually going to drag this straight into Photoshop and use the clone stamping tool there. You can save this as a Photoshop file or as a PNG or JPEG, whatever you'd like to do. You could essentially use the clone stamp tool in After Effects, but I found that using Photoshop or any kind of photo editing software that has a clone stamping tool is the best way to go about this, and it's just easier all around. So go ahead and export that, click render for the frame if you're doing it within After Effects. Once you have that screenshot, hop into Photoshop. We're going to click File, Open. If you guys have the Adobe CC Creative Suite, you should already have Photoshop, After Effects, and Adobe Premiere already downloaded. You're going to want to navigate to where we just saved that. Okay, guys, so within Photoshop, what we are going to do is use this clone stamp tool right here. It looks like a little joystick button. Just go ahead and select that. And you'll see it's basically like a brush, except you can click and select any point of the actual frame to use as the brush. So if you hold down Alt on your keyboard, you'll see that your brush will change to a little target. Go ahead and select a spot on the face, and you can actually use that to start painting over the mouth, just like this. But keep in mind, you want to just do small strokes. You don't want to go too far. If you do, you'll see that you'll basically paste over parts that you don't like. So small little clicks, just like this, kind of smooth them out. You're also going to want to grab different parts of the video. I have 2 different color lighting on each side of his face, so it's going to look a little bit unique in that sense. You can also right click on these 3 little dots here on the far left, and you can use your smudge and your blur tool just to kind of patch this up a bit. So we'll go ahead and select the smudge tool. Make sure you have a soft rounded brush going on there. We'll put the strength at around 40%, and we'll just try and smudge this and blend this a little bit better. All right, so once you have a single frame look that you're comfortable with, you can go up to File, Save As. We can save this as either a JPEG or a PNG. Just make sure you save it in a folder or a place where you can easily find it and remember it. We're going to pop back into After Effects once you've done that. We're just going to navigate to the place where we exported that frame, and then we're going to go ahead and just drag in our actual frame that we just got from Photoshop. So we'll drag this in. And if you want it to perfectly match up, you can just open up your transform options for your screenshot, lower your opacity a bit, and then you can just scroll along until you see these completely matched up. So right there, if you just turn the opacity on and off, you'll see that's what it's looking like. So now all we actually need to do is take the part that we like, which is the mouth cover, and then track it onto our face. So to do that, let's go up to our toolbar here. We're going to select our pen tool. You can just click G if you like. Next, we're going to select the screenshot layer. So I'll just name this mouth cover for now. So using my pen tool, I'm just going to draw a mask around the area of the mouth that we'd like to take and save. And it's going to look like this. And you may notice that we have this rough edge going on here. To fix that, go ahead and click M on your keyboard just to bring up your mask options, and we can open up the mask and just feather that a bit. And you'll see that this rough edge will just completely get smoothed away like that. So now all we need to do is track this onto our face. So we can actually hide this layer for now. We're only going to worry about the face footage and setting up the track for now. So let's go ahead and select our ellipse tool, or click Q on your keyboard to select that. And if you're not seeing that, you can also hold down Alt on your keyboard and just click on the little shapes on these polygons until you have your ellipse tool. And you're just going to want to select your normal footage layer, and then click and drag a circular mask over the face of your subject. Once you've done that, you can go down to where you see your mask. If you don't see it, click M, of course, to bring up your options and change the mask from add to none. So we have our mask, but it's not adding or subtracting anything. What we can do now is right click on that mask and click track mask. And you're going to see this tracker window get highlighted over here on the right. We can change your method from position, scale, and rotation to facial tracking detailed features. Make sure you don't do outline only. Select the detailed features, and then we can go ahead and just click play. And you'll see that After Effects actually does a really great job at using the detailed facial track. So if we select our layer and we go up to our effect controls here, we can click on our face track points, and you'll see how good of a job it actually did at tracking all of these facial features. So the part where he's actually performing the song here and his mouth is moving, that may actually get a little bit choppy. That's why I said whenever you do shoot this, make sure that your subject isn't moving their mouth if you are setting it up for this effect to work best. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open up our options here. So click these little triangles, expand them. We can hide our mask. Let's go to effects, open up our face track points. You can actually see all of the tracked keyframe locations and data for every single facial feature we have. So left eye, right eye. We're going to open up the mouth options, and then you'll see we have all of this tracking info for all of the locations on the mouth. So what we're going to do is we'll keep that open for now. We're going to scroll up, and we're going to find our mouth cover. So it's right there. You'll see this isn't synced up until it gets to around here. What you want to do at this position is we're going to hide our mask on this mouth cover layer. We're going to open up our transform options for it. So click open this triangle, and then you'll see you have your position, scale, rotation. We're going to hold down Alt on our keyboard, and we're going to click on position. And you'll see these numbers turn red. It pops open our expression. It also gives you a few of these little tools here. We're going to grab this pick whip tool, this little spiral, click and drag, and then go down to where it says mouth. You'll see these boxes will be highlighted. Go ahead and just drop that on the mouth top like that. So now you'll see an expression has popped up. So the position of this mouth cover that we have, this layer, this still image, is going to be linked to the mouth tracking information that we just got. So what we can do is actually select our mouth cover. You'll see it's a little bit off place. You can grab your anchor point, and let's just kind of reposition this as best as possible. And now if we actually play along, you'll see that this is completely tracked onto our face. And like I said, if the mouth is moving, you may have some issues with the mask. Here's what that's looking like. You guys could go in there and just try and patch it up if it's not too much movement, but that's why I say if you have little movement as possible, you're gonna have a super easy time tracking this and getting something like that. Also at the beginning, you'll see here, looking pretty good. There's a little bit of fringing on this, so what I'm going to do is just click M on that layer, and then you guys can mess around with your mask expansion, your mask feather, anything that you really need. And that is how you can create the wiped away mouth look like from that Post Malone Circles music video. Moving on to the next thing, we're going to work on some cool eye things. We're going to do the purple eye first, then we'll show you the washed away white eye, and then we'll go into some other things like the distorted mirror and the time-lapse sky that we talked about earlier. Today's video is sponsored by NVIDIA Studio. NVIDIA Studio is basically the middleman between content creators and the software and hardware manufacturers, which are making the tools you use on a day-to-day basis. So, for example, Adobe Premiere and After Effects. NVIDIA Studio's primary focus is creating technology which is tailored specifically to help make your job easier. That means creating products that make your workflow faster, more simple, and more professional. I recently made a full video review on the Acer Concept D7 laptop, which uses NVIDIA's new RTX graphics cards, as well as a bunch of new high-end features added specifically for digital creators. That video is chock full of a bunch of info on GPU acceleration, ray tracing, and the overall benefits of using a laptop that is made specifically for doing what we do. So if you are interested, check out the links down in the description. So now let's show you guys how to create these cool violet fantasy inspired eyes like in the original music video we've been speaking of. There's a lot of eye changing tutorials out on the internet. This isn't going to be too much different. There are a few other steps that I'm going to show you that are designed specifically for creating this look. So let's go ahead and get right into this. So first off, what we want to do is focus on our original footage. We're going to select it and click Control D to duplicate it. And then we're going to right click on it and rename it to left eye. So what we want to do here is let's click M on this left eye layer, and we can just delete this mask, the circular mask we used to track earlier, so that we have that as just fresh, normal footage. And then we're going to go ahead and grab our pen tool again up here. Now we can zoom in and we can actually draw a mask around our eye. So technically this is his right eye, but just from me looking at it, I'm just going to label it as left eye. Connect that circle in there, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to click M to show that mask on that layer. Right click on the mask and then click Track Mask. You'll see our tracker window will pop up here. Let's change the method from face tracking details just to position, scale, and rotation, and then go ahead and click play. And since we're only masking around these eyes, the track mask should do an easy job at actually pulling that off. So here we go. We have a nice track mask like that. Now all we need to do is actually go up to our effects and presets, and we're going to look up a fill effect. So look for the fill effect. It's under generate, and then drop that on our left eye layer. And you'll see it'll just turn red like this. So what we want to do first off is let's go into our mask options for our left eye. You'll see your mask feather. We're going to go ahead and make that 10 pixels. And of course, that depends on your footage. You may want to lower the mask expansion a tiny bit, maybe -3. And now we're actually going to select the color for our purple violet eye. So what you can actually do is you can screen grab the exact color you want from this music video or any other thing you want. Of course, you could choose your own if you want to customize your own look. So I'm going to do this off screen because I have 2 monitors, which is going to make this a lot easier. So I'll make this full screen on my second monitor. I'll go up to my fill in my effect controls. So select your layer, go up to your effect controls. Under fill, you're going to select this eyedropper, and then on my second monitor, I'll just select the purple color that I want. So we have this nice deep purple. If you guys want the exact color code for that, there you go, 001235. You can just actually write that in there and you'll have the exact color I'm using. Now we're gonna add an extra step here. What we want to do is actually select this left eye, click Control D on it to duplicate it again, and we're just going to name this left eye tint. Now the only thing we're gonna change with this is, let's go ahead and close these options. Let's click M on our left eye tint. Open up the mask options for that duplicated layer. We'll change the feather. Instead of 10, we're going to go with 4 pixels. And then we'll also grab the mask expansion and we'll put that on something like -4. We'll check out how that looks. Next, we want to go up to our fill. We're going to choose a lighter violet color or whatever color you'd like. I'll do the same thing again. I'll actually just grab it right from the music video. So check it out. If you want the color code for this, you guys can go ahead and use that. There it is right there. Or if you want, you can actually just grab and maybe lighten that up a bit more, depending on what you like. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go up to our effects and presets once more, and I'm going to look up a normal little glow effect, and I'm just going to grab the normal glow that's under stylize and just drop that on my left eye tint. You can grab your glow threshold, and the more you pull that up, the more light it'll become. And if we zoom out, here's what that's looking like. Pretty cool. If you don't want that to be taking up the full eye, of course, what you can do is just lower your mask expansion a bit. So we'll grab the left eye and the left eye tint, just hold down Shift and click to select both of them. Right click, we're just going to pre-compose those so that it's in one layer, and we'll just name that left eye. Now that's just in one layer. It won't be confusing as we work on the other eye. Alright guys, so for the washed out eye to normal animation, what we're going to do is pretty similar. We're going to go ahead and select our original footage to start. Click Control D just to duplicate that, and then we're going to right click and we're going to rename this right eye blind. Now what we can do is click M and just delete the mask off of there for that facial features mask we did earlier. Delete that. You can also delete the face track points if you don't want them. Now what we can do, let's zoom in on our right eye. We'll go ahead and grab our pen tool again, or click G. And we're just going to draw a mask around our eye, similar to what we did before. The only thing we're really going to change is once we connect this, we're going to track this first. So right click on the mask, click Track Mask, go over to your tracker, position, scale, rotation, play that. So here's what we're going to change. We're going to go over to our effects and presets. We'll drop the fill effect like before, place that there. We're going to go ahead and make this white this time. Or if you'd like, you can grab this dropper and try and match the eye color here. I'll actually just try and make that a little bit brighter. Now we'll go into our mask options here, and I'm going to feather this. I also want to click toggle switches and modes. And for my right eye blind layer, I want to put that on something like linear dodge. You can mess around, maybe put it on lighten. We want to just kind of get some more detail at the bottom of the eye there. And you'll see that is a pretty nice washed out kind of zombie looking eye. So now what we'll do is at my beginning position here, I'm going to see my mask expansion and opacity. We can keyframe our mask expansion and then just drag to the end of this. We'll grab our mask expansion and we'll just pull it down. So essentially what it'll do is it'll kind of just fade into the center. And here's what that looks like. So you have that animation of it kind of shrinking and going back to normal. So go ahead and just rewind the video, repeat those steps on the other eye. I'm not going to show it here just because we probably talked about these same steps. So once you've done that, you should get something like this where we have both of the eyes fading in and out. So now let's go ahead and get into this cool offset turbulent displaced mirror. We're going to use some caustics within After Effects. Again, for this one, when you're shooting the footage, keeping the effect in mind, you don't want to have a lot of motion in your shots. The example that I actually have here, actually have a decent amount of handheld motion going on, but we'll still be able to show you how we can composite in these cool ripples and distortion within the mirror. So first off, what we need to do, let's go ahead and go to our project bin, and we're going to click this button here to make a new composition. We're actually going to name this Caustics Map. So match the sequence settings 1920 by 1080. We'll also have our duration the same, around 3 seconds for this. First step, what we want to do is right click in this gray space, go to new, and then go to solid. And you can name this whatever you want, maybe ripples, maybe Caustics Map again. Just make it a black solid and click OK. You're going to want to go to your effects and presets and look up the radio waves effect preset. So look up radio waves under generate and apply that onto your solid. And you'll see we can actually check on this to see our transparency just as black. It just creates some normal little rings like this. So what we can do here, let's actually change the color in our effect controls for this from blue to white. Next, what we want to do is let's grab our start width. Let's maybe make this 50, and we can make our end width something like 60. Just to kind of get some thicker rings going on. Now, if you want, you can actually bring up the expansion here if you want it to kind of go a little bit faster. You can also check this reflection. So once it hits the edge of the screen, it'll kind of react as if it's kind of bouncing off of it. If you want, you can mess around with any of the settings here to really tailor the look. I'm also going to go and add a little turbulence displace effect on here. And that'll just kind of add some more realistic ripples, as you can see. So now let's pop back over to our old composition, where we actually have our footage here, and we can go ahead and open up our project bin here, and let's grab our Caustics Map and just drag this in a layer above. So for now, let's just drag this below. We don't need this right now. We're going to actually right click in our gray space again and go to new, and then we're going to go to adjustment layer, and I'll name this adjustment layer I'll name this our Caustics Control. And on this adjustment layer, I'm going to go up to our effects and presets and look up the Caustics effect. Now, this is a really cool simulation effect, which is built into After Effects. You can create some really cool, realistic looking water ripples throughout your footage. But for now, we'll change our surface color and our effect controls just to a normal white. We're going to grab our bottom here, and we're just going to place this on our Caustics Control. And then we're going to grab our water surface here, and we're going to make this our caustics. You'll now see that our caustic map is reacting the way that we want it to. Now this looks pretty bad, so first off, let's click toggle switches and modes to see your blending mode. We're going to place this on overlay. Let's actually pop back into the caustics map here, and we're just going to blur this a little bit more so it looks a little bit more water-like. So double click on your caustics map comp, and we're going to look up a fast blur. Go ahead and drop that onto our ripples layer there, and we'll put this at around 60. So now it's looking like that. Let's go back to our composition we're working in, and now you'll see that it looks 10 times better than it did before. You may want to lower your resolution here to half or third to play this out a bit better, and then get your RAM preview. But as you can see, it's reacting with the mirror and making it ripple with this kind of realistic look. Now, if you want, you could try and use some 3D camera tracking to place a solid and just kind of map it onto the mirror. But with so much movement that we have here, it's going to be really hard to pull that off with this shot. But if you have slight movement, you could try a 3D camera tracker. If you're shot on a tripod, then this will be fine. What you want to do next is we can actually try and align this just with the orientation with the mirror. So let's go into our caustic maps again. Let's click toggle switches and modes, and then we'll enable this little 3D cube switch here to make this a 3D layer. And now we can open up our transform options and just kind of orient this So it's kind of sideways like that. And if you go back to comp 3, you'll see how that kind of reacts. Now it looks more like it's kind of on that sideways angle that we have. And that's, of course, depending on your footage. Now let's go ahead and just draw some normal little masks so that this doesn't affect anything that's not within the mirror. So here's what that is looking like. Now what we can do is, if you want, you can mess around with some of these controls to try and blend it a bit better. You can actually go over to your caustics map, open your transform, and maybe just lower the opacity a bit. Now if you want, you can click on that adjustment layer. You can go up to your caustics in your effect controls, and you can actually mess around with this. So your wave height, this will just add more shadowy depth. So if we put that and we lower it a bit, you'll see it'll just be a bit more light. Now what you want to do, our last step here, is we're going to go ahead and select our normal footage here. We're going to select it, click Control D on it, and we're just going to go to our effects and presets and look up a little turbulent displace. And this will just kind of match so that we really have that liquid effect happening in the mirror. So you can go ahead and mess around with this, lower the amount, change around whatever kind of look you want. The last step that we really need is we just need to create a mask so that it's not affecting the edges that are outside of the mirror. And this is why we duplicated this footage. We can now just grab our pen tool and then draw around the edge of our mirror. And that's how you can get that kind of turbulent twisting and turning like how you see in the original music video here. Obviously, it looks a little bit different lighting setups, a lot more movement in here, but that's the ins and outs of how you can really distort and ripple a mirror just like that. I'm going to show you how we can create a quick little sky replace. Specifically, we want to place this kind of time-lapse sky moving across here like you see in this clip from the original Post Malone music video. I'm going to show you a little technique here that's kind of like a quick workaround to the complex masking and some of the other complex keying methods that you may have seen in other sky replacement videos. So this should be a lot faster, this should be a lot easier, but like I said, this is kind of just a quick little trick. So I'll right click my footage, I'll bring it into After Effects. So here's what our footage is looking like. I shot this on an Ursa Mini Pro, looking really nice, a little bit overexposed, but that should be okay because we're going to use this little trick to try and replace the light parts of this video. So first off, we need to find the clip we want to place up top to make this a little bit more flashy. So I just went on Google and I looked up sunset time-lapse free clip, free stock clip, however you want to do it. You can just find it on the internet. I'll leave a link below to the site that I use to find this. Let's go ahead and just drag that into our project bin here. Here is what this is looking like. I'm going to drag along, find a spot in the video that I think will be good. So maybe here where you can see the sun kind of peeking over the clouds. So now let's press T on this sunrise layer. I'll lower the opacity. I'm just going to position this where I would like, and of course just stretch it out to kind of fit. If you find a 4K layer for this, it'll be easier to actually kind of stretch it without losing a lot of quality. So that should be fine for now. And notice that I'm placing it here where the sun is in the original clip, where it's kind of washing away details. Matching up lighting is very important when it comes to these kind of composites. It'll just make the effect be pulled off a little bit better. So like I said a little bit earlier, I wouldn't recommend this if you're really wanting to go for some in-depth sky replacement. This is just kind of a quick little workaround where you can get some nice results depending on the clip. So what you do for this is you can actually select your layer, click Control D to duplicate it, and you're going to place that duplication above our sunrise. Click toggle switches and modes until you see this track matte feature here for our sunrise. We're going to select this track matte and click Luma Matte on our footage that we just placed. So Luma Matte it, you'll get something like that. Now what we need to do before this is we're actually going to want to do a quick little footage track of this. So let's hide this sunrise layer and let's just focus on this bottom normal footage. We're going to right click on it and we're going to go to track and stabilize here and click track camera, and then this will automatically analyze in the background. All right, so that just went through. Here's what that track's looking like. We can just click create camera and we're good to go with that. So now let's bring back our sunrise layer here that's already kind of using this Luma Matte. We're going to click toggle switches and modes until we can see our switches, and we'll just enable that to be a 3D layer. So now this is actually 3D tracked with the camera, so it'll match the handheld movement a bit better as we go along here. So next what you want to do is click toggle switches and modes again, and you're going to grab your normal blending mode for this sunrise layer. We're going to change this to linear burn, just like that. If you want, of course, you can actually mess around with any other different blending modes, put the skyline kind of higher. And if we play this out, here is what that is looking like. So only issues with this method, you may need to go in and do some slight masking if you don't want some overlays here. But in terms of tracking and compositing it in, it does a pretty decent job at actually getting the job done. Now, there's one little bump here, and you may think that might be a mess up from the 3D camera tracker, but that is actually from the original footage. They may have just kind of bumped the tripod while they were taking the time lapse, because if we scroll back here, you'll see that this is pretty smooth in that area. So what I did is, if you don't want this overlaying on his face or in any other part of the video, you can actually just create a little mask. You can click M to select that mask and then just put that on subtract. And then you can actually just feather this, try and cut out that part. You can even use the mask path, keyframe that, and just move along so that it follows his face. And that's that, guys. Go ahead and color grade this to match the original footage in the composition. You can go and add any curves effects, any brightness and contrast. If you want to make that brighter or darker, so we'll just kind of raise the highlights, make it a bit darker, and then I'll file save this. Since we have that dynamic link in Adobe Premiere, we can actually go into Premiere and add any final touches you'd like. As always, leave a like, comment, subscribe if you did enjoy. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Thank you guys so much for supporting, and I'll see you guys in the next one.